Is the window? Is it the window?
Cold here. Everything,
Yeah.
the heat here is very, very low.
The insulation is not the.
What are we gonna do? How's Eretz Yisrael?
We cold because you're from Israel. You're from here. For you,
Where are you from? You're from Eretz
Haifa,
Yisrael?
Haifa, yeah, Haifa.
Haifa. Wow, you play with ships, right?
No,
You're not in the ship. You don't have a yacht. You live in a yacht.
No, there's no yacht over there.
Boats.
In Haifa, there's no yacht, only big boats.
I also have boats
Therefore,
in
in the Lego.
No, in my bath. I have boats, little boats.
For you, for your kid.
Sometimes it ends up in
For you, there's no space to.
yeah. Party. Hello.
That's my claim to fame.
That's your claim to fame.
One of my claim to fame.
Yes, there's challenge. You have challenge.
Haifa, the man, but
He's from Russia.
born and raised in Haifa. I grew up in Haifa. I went to
Who's that?
the captain, the boat.
We'll get there. We'll see where it goes.
He was an
We'll
officer
see.
in the boat, in the ship, I mean, commercial boat.
So we have a lot to cover.
You got those.
We have a lot to cover. This is a very heavy mind.
Right, so the level,
Very, very heavy mind. You have to stop. You have to stop eating. We'll start off with
okay?
Is it recording?
Everything's done.
It's recording.
Yeah, but both the audio and videos.
Watching, there's people watching, sir?
Yeah, yeah. Everything.
Everything.
We're coming. Okay.
So
So here's the story. So
But you do phone on silent. I got more things than.
here are the papers.
You have 4 things.
We're gonna try to learn all together. Yeah. Hello, Yechanan. Okay, so here's the story. The mimer is the Eila Shmois of Tavshan Chav Beis. If you want to Google it, you'll be able to get a PDF. Or yeah, you'll get text on WhatsApp with the PDF. Okay, so here's the story. Rabbi Morozov sent me a message. This week, asking if I could give a share on Thursday. So I asked, "What is it about?" He said, "Chassidus," and then I found out that it's usually a Tanya shir. But then I was thinking it's Shemos. It's this week is Parshas Shemos. So I was thinking, hey, now is a great time to learn a mimer that is very dear to me. What happened was when I was in Shir Gimel Yeshiva Gdela in Montreal. So it wasn't just that year, but every year my birthday is Ches Teves. Right? That's my day, the day I was born. And so right after my birthday I was thinking, okay, what should I learn? So there was a sikha that the Rebbe said on Yud Beis Teves of Tavshim Mem Zayin, which is right after Hey Teves, where the Rebbe speaks about speaks that we need to get ready for Yud Shvat with Torah and Avodah and Gemilas Chasadim. I need to ask our Mashpia in which ways we need to grow in these 3 areas as a way to get ready for Yud Shvat. Actually, this year is 75 years. It's Yud Shvat, so if we haven't already started to get ready for Yud Shvat, now's a good time to remind ourselves to do that.
Hey, Davis, baby. I am too. I'm with Yoni.
Yoni is Hey Teves.
No, just I'm your test.
Teves.
What do you
should have.
My brother-in-law take Dave.
My birthday is
Yeah.
Ches Teves.
Your brother-in-law is
Ches. is Hey. Hey. His birthday is Hey Tavis.
You're turning what? 38?
36.
Oh, he's older than you.
Yes, he's 2 years
I'm also
older.
older than you.
Yes. I mean, if you don't, I believe you. You know. So I was thinking, okay, if I took it to heart. Okay, so who should I ask? Okay, so let me ask the official mashpia. So I never really spoke to Anhala before, besides when they would tell me that I'm doing something that I need to work on. That was my conversations with Anhala. But I pushed myself. I didn't even know what I was doing. I just went to Rebbe Shamir Garari and I said, "This is what I learned." The Rebbe says that I need to speak to my mashpia to get ready for Yod Shvat. So tell me what to do. But so I was very surprised. I was like shaking. I was like so scared that he's gonna like tell me like what I need to hear. Like what's like hello, what's your name? You're here for the last 3 years. But no, he just took what my question was and he took to heart. So one thing was with Torah was learning. He said you should start to learn from learn whatever we're learning if it is, and if you have any questions, always feel free to come over and ask the question. So I said it's already Tavis time, so we're already deep into like Perik Bays and Shari Ramona, something like that. So he's like, okay, start from kind of start wherever you want, start at the beginning, and good. So you have questions, so come over and ask questions. So that was the start of a few months of solid learning because of that conversation. So one of the Maimorim that was part of the was on that topic of Sharach V'Emunah about how Hashem exists and how Hashem creates and how we exist, that's possible for us to exist as seemingly separate entities from Hashem. So one of the Maimorim that we learned was Ve'elu Shmois Chav Beis. So this was it brought back great memories. Actually, I have like many notes based on the shiurim. So that was nice to be able to learn this. So we're going to take a detour. It just happens to be, it's, I mean, there's another mimer from Chav Beis, also Gadol Yiyeh, which is later on. There was many mimarim in Tafshin Chav Beis. I don't know why that year, but somehow there's many mimarim about this topic. Maybe there was some sefer that came out at that time. Some from previous rabbeim. I don't know why, but okay. So here's the mimer. So Ve'elu Shmois. We start off this parsha. I'm going to try to go fast, slow. We'll see where it goes, and feel free, obviously, to ask questions. We'll see if a conversation sparks. That's fine. Also, there's always more time to finish the mimer, and there's no such thing as finishing a mimer, anyways, because a mimer continues to when you finish the mimer. So that's the whole point of the mimer. Okay, so Ve'elu Shmois Bnei Yisrael b'Mitzrayim Yaakov Yishuv Zeba. So the Torah goes on to state the names of Yaakov and his family that were in Mitzrayim, that came into Mitzrayim. So there's a question that many of us know, that why does the Torah say this twice? There's one time this Parsha in Shemos, but we already talked about in Parshas Vayigash, we already mentioned the Yidden, the children of Yaakov that came into Mitzrayim. So why now are you coming and telling us? Is the Torah coming and telling us who it is? We already know. So the Torah Oir, that's from Alter Rebbe, and Torah Chaim already gives an explanation. What's their explanation? That we really know that coming to Mitzrayim, into Golus Mitzrayim, there were two levels of Golus Mitzrayim. Meaning, I mean, even in simple types, when Yaakov had to go to Mitzrayim, was already kind of a Yerida. He was living in Eretz Yisrael, so now he's going into Mitzrayim. So just living in Mitzrayim is already not, on as great of a level as and being in Eretz Yisrael. But still, He's not. It's not like more. He's not like part of Golos. He's not. It's not Golos Mitzrayim yet. So obviously, there's two levels. There's two levels in Mitzrayim, in Golos Mitzrayim. But that's just a simple touch. But even in Golos Mitzrayim, there's two. Mashakasu Yorod Yoradnu, that is two levels. Shalochin, because and then also when Moshiach, when they went out of Mitzrayim, there were two aliyahs. Like it says, Vanechi Elcha Gam Allah. It doesn't just say, okay, we're gonna go out. There were two levels. Okay. So the Rabbeim, the previous Rabbeim already explained what are these two Yeridos of Golos Mitzrayim. Really, it comes from the how it is how um, everything that happens in this world is not a happenstance. It doesn't just happen out of nowhere. It's because in higher worlds, in the way Hashem interacts with this world, and even in the higher worlds itself, is that already causes and is a prelude to what happens in this world. So when we say that there were two levels of Galus Mitzrayim, so it's not just over here; it's also in Seder Ishtalshalos. Why? Because there's two ways of we see in our own lives when a person has themselves. It's like I am on my own, and I could be in my own thoughts, let's say, but then I could be I could be putting words to my thoughts. So let's say I'm thinking with words, but even so that is not those words are not me myself. It's I'm already dealing, so to speak, with my thoughts. So it's not me myself. So but still it's me on my own. I'm thinking to myself. Obviously, when I'm starting to put words to it, when I'm going to talk it out, so obviously that's on a much lower level, meaning separate from me. Meaning I could be in my thoughts, but I'm kind of talking to myself. So that's still, I'm still just in my own existence. But when I'm starting to talk to someone else, so then obviously it's more um it's obviously going on a, so to speak, it's not saying lower or higher, but just separate from me in my own existence. So that's like the yichud of Yaakov and Rachel and Yaakov and Leah. Okay. But then here comes the question. The question is, why are we saying that oisios is the prelude of Golos? Why are we saying that Hashem, when Hashem, so to speak, when Hashem is speaking, that causes there to be exile. How can we say that if we know that the world itself exists through because Hashem spoke? When Hashem spoke out the 10 utterances that created the world, so obviously that's how the world was created. So why are we making it sound like this is the prelude to Golos? It just exists, just the world exists. When Mashiach comes, it's also going to be ISIS. So what do you mean that it's Golos? It doesn't. Why are you saying that that's the prelude to Golos? So obviously it means that there's different types of ISIS. There is there's words. There's when someone talks, it could be two different ways of talking. There could be talking where you reveal what you're thinking, and also there could be words that are not able to not we're not able to understand. It doesn't make any sense to us. Someone could be talking and it doesn't make sense to us. So even if the guy thinks that he's making sense, but if no one else is understanding, so those words themselves create confusion, and it for sure doesn't reveal the person's thought process, because no one understands what he's saying. So that's why there's different types of letters, different types of words. There's words that do reveal, and then there's words that do confuse and conceal. So that's why we could say that Oisis on one hand could create, Hashem could create the world with words, with speech, and also speech could cause there to be exile, which is the opposite of is obviously the opposite. It's causing someone to not see Hashem in, so things don't make any sense. The bad could prosper, the good could not prosper, at least from our vantage point. So then what happens? What happens with Geula? V'inyan ha'Geula, hu sheyegilu ya'or b'ha'oisiyos. So what happens when there's Geula? What is Geula really? It means that the light is actually revealed in the words, in the letters, meaning that all existence, Oasis is kind of like Hashem creating. So any creation will be a catalyst to see godliness, to see Hashem. It'll be a proof, hey, that Hashem exists. So obviously that's like what Chassidus or any Hashkafa Torah helps us realize that Hashem exists. But it's not that the world itself tells it to us. We need to think about it. So it's like Torah is already, from Torah's vantage point, it's already Geula, because Torah is on that level already. Especially the hidden parts of Torah, which will be revealed when Mashiach comes. Especially those parts where it doesn't really delve into the nitty-gritty of the world's negating of godliness. Okay, so that's there. But now comes the main question. Here comes the main question, which the mimer is going to then try to explain. Thank you. But we have to understand, it's very important for us to understand, if we're going to say Elokai HaMelech, if we're going to say that what happens when Mashiach comes, Hashem will be king of the world. It'll be obvious to us that Hashem is king of the world. So if we say that, so what's going on? Elokai, the word Elokai, on one hand, when we speak of Elokim, we talk about power, strength, right? And the halacha of when we say a bracha, we need to think of, when we're saying different names of Hashem, we need to think of specific things. So by Elokim, we talk about that Hashem is the king and is in power and is in power of everything. He could control everything. That's what we say by Elokim. But when we talk about power, if you talk, let's say for myself, we've talked before, when we think, we're thinking, yes, we're thinking with words. When we think, we could think in English and Yiddish and Russian and Spanish and French. Did I miss any other languages? Hebrew. Russian. Yiddish. Right. So good. So obviously that proves that we're using letters, we're using words. But when we're thinking to ourselves, we're not getting out of ourselves. We're still within our own existence. It's as if even those words, they're not blocking. We're still within ourselves. I guess that's the best way of saying it. We're still preoccupied with our own existence. We're thinking to ourselves. And when we start thinking, okay, how are we going to say it over to someone else? Or even if we don't think about that, we're actually talking. Some people talk before they think. Right? No one around this table, obviously. Right? I don't know everybody around this table.
I shouldn't be talking about it.
Right.
Hopefully.
I mean, not in the middle of Omni Shmirab. So yeah. So when someone is going to go and think about how to talk it over to someone else, so they're already getting out of their own existence. They're already, well, first of all, there's someone else. Somehow I care about someone else by now because someone else already exists within my existence. Meaning I'm thinking to myself, yes, I'm still thinking to myself, and I'm thinking how to say it over to someone else. So then already that's negating my existence. Meaning if I'm talking to myself and thinking to myself, then it's as if nothing else exists. Does that make any sense? In my own, I'm being preoccupied with myself as if nothing else exists.
I don't believe other things exist. I'm still thinking to myself.
Right, but while I'm thinking to myself,
I can multitask.
unless I think about something else.
I can multitask.
Yeah?
I need to think about something. I mean, be involved with something else.
Well, okay. If you're thinking to yourself about someone else, then okay. But still, but even then, you're still being preoccupied with yourself. You're still thinking to yourself. It's as if, what do I think about whatever's happening? So you don't think so? Okay. So that's
I can't be talking about something else, but I could be occupied.
you could. I'm talking about preoccupied. Like what are you actively engaged in?
I mean, you're thinking a whole day and you're doing 100 things, right? You're not always thinking about what you're doing.
Right.
You could be thinking other thoughts.
Right. Right. Okay. But that's not like actively thinking. That's like the absence of Right. So no, my point is that as soon as someone's getting preoccupied with someone else, the world becomes larger. Like that's my point. So when we talk, so that's just the thought. But then there's action. When someone's acting, let's say walking is okay, but if someone's gonna say gonna throw, if I'm gonna throw a ball away from me, that's like um the most separate from myself I could ever get because it's technically my power that's causing the ball to go wherever it is. Um, but it's getting more and more separate from me. So when I talk about my power, it's like the most separate, the most not um my own existence. It's like as separate as I could get. So when we talk of Hashem, that Hashem has power over the world. That is that makes it sound as if Hashem is somewhere, and then Hashem has power over something else, like somewhere else, like his existence overpowers something else. But that shows that there's something else and something separate from him. And even you could even say maybe that his power is separate from him because, like he then what is he having power over? He's having power over himself. Like what does he need power over himself for? It's not negating. It's not separate from himself. So on one hand, Elikaya Melech sounds like there's something separate from him, there's something alien to his existence. But then Elikai is like Elikus, godliness, which when you talk of something that being godly it's as close as godly as it is. Meaning it's by definition godly means that it's one with God. So then it's not separate. It's not just a power. So what's going on? Is Elikai Hamelech is it a negation of his oneness, or is it still one with it? So that comes to so this question really brings up a whole um, a whole subject of Chassidus, which Chassidus tries very hard over and over and over again to show what in Hebrew would be called like Einoi Milvadoi or Havai or Hashem Hu Ho'alikim. Um, and to let's preface. Let's preface. When we think of even in our own lives, let's say someone is a um, let's say there's a time during davening or just sometime during the year maybe he has like let's say a hero tshuva, like he wants to, okay, I'm going to do what Hashem wants. And then there are times that he doesn't feel that. We're learning Tanya now about in Perikid Vez about what a Beinoni is like, that sometimes during davening he could feel like, oh, he wants to just cleave to Hashem, but then he does, that goes away. um So what's going on? Is this true or is that true? Is he one with Hashem or not? And even more so, there's times that it makes sense that it's obvious that Hashem runs the world, especially let's say there's a nace, like a miracle, an open miracle, that's like, hey, now we know that things aren't just natural, that there's really someone that is not bound by nature. Okay, but then other times things are natural. So what's going on? If we see that sometimes Hashem is not revealed, it's not easy to see Hashem, to realize that Hashem exists. So then what's is that the first of all, how is that even possible? Isn't it, shouldn't it be that Hashem is always understood and always realized that he exists? Or is it that, okay, maybe there's different levels of Hashem's being in touch with this world? Maybe there is a difference. Maybe during Golus, Hashem is kind of asleep and he doesn't really care. And what's the difference, anyways? But then when Geula comes, oh, so now I'm back home. I'm I'm in my own. I'm full, in all my glory, and now, okay, now we're connected. Or is it that even during Gullus we're connected? That's a very important question to think about, and Chassidus keeps on bringing this up, obviously, probably because Chassidus really wants us to understand. So let's with that introduction, let's go back to the difference between, well, what is power really saying? When we have um, um, when we talk of koyach, when we talk of power, and when we talk of power, really we're talking about human power. When we talk about when something is separate from us, it's really just about a human, because by us, okay, we're not recreating the power of flight,
Transferring emotion.
right? We're just pushing something, and then after a little bit, it'll fall back down because we don't have the capacity to continuously do that. All we're doing is just moving things around. With Hashem, well, with creation, there's really nothing that could exist without Hashem's um, being preoccupied with creation. There wouldn't be any creation if Hashem would just stop, like as if He created it and then that's it. Like then, with if it would be that way, then it would be like our power, because with our power, okay, there's we push some we throw the ball really hard, and then with time it gets slower and slower and slower, and then it dies down. And that's with our power, but that's not with Hashem's power, because we see that everything continues to exist. It's if the mere fact that the world exists just as much as it used to be, meaning um like it's not like the world is any less existing now than it was before. It shows that it's not like the power that we're talking about beforehand. But that's one thing. That's one thing. But really, if you think more in depth into this whole issue, the mere fact that something is that it's easy to see Hashem, it's something that's like a miracle, something that's out of the ordinary. just being in touch with our neshama. That all these things are more in theory, you would think that that should be the norm. That's just like matter of fact. That's normal, meaning it's normal for it makes sense that we would be able to realize that Hashem exists because the Hashem exists a lot truer in existence than the world. So it would make sense for us to realize that. So the mere fact that we don't realize that automatically is like counter is against nature, meaning there needs to be an extra there needs to be extra work to make sure that the world is in this state. It's important. I think it's important to realize. It's like um let's say for a parent, at least a healthy parent, to love their child and to be affectionate to their child is is healthy. But sometimes the parent realizes that just to hug and kiss their kid will be detrimental to their kid. Sometimes the kid needs to learn that there's rules and expectations, and maybe even just ignoring or whatever the issue that needs to be
I gotta get out of the house.
right to become independent.
Yeah,
All these things is very
healthy.
against the nature of the parents. Meaning,
Crucial.
yes, it's crucial and it's very important, but the so in order for a healthy parent to do what is correct for the child, the parent needs to work even harder to hold back from that affection that he would love to just give over to the kid, to his child. So he has to dig deeper into his parenthood even more than he would have had to dig for just being affectionate, because that's just like it's just
Natural.
natural. It's like just uh, giving over his existence. It's just automatic. He doesn't have to work hard. It just happens. Like it would only make sense, you know. So, but obviously for the child, or I mean, unless the child is mature, but chances are the child doesn't realize. But while the child is being told to become independent, the child doesn't like it. I might even think that the parent is not doesn't like him, or it just is not parenting. Like, what do you mean? You're not acting like a parent. So the parent subconsciously says that yes, I am negating my parenthood at this time, and it's very hard for me because I'm negating my own just automatic existence as a parent, but this is what's needed. So that power, see, getting back to Elikai meaning power, that power is even more intrinsic. He has to dig deeper into his parenthood even more than just like a matter of fact being a parent. So getting back to like let's say Geula, or let's say getting back to Yaakov. Yaakov lived in Eretz Yisrael, and Hashem had had a speaking engagements with Yaakov, right? He would sit and talk to him, or Yaakov, Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov. They were in Eretz Yisrael most of the time. Good. So you have a life as a shepherd, right? Most of Yaakov's sons were shepherds, so they sat and learned. So there's a certain way of life where things just happen. It's like a kind of like a tzaddik. But then there's times that a person is in Mitzrayim, is in Golos. So then there's two parts to it. There's one is that Hashem himself has to is holding back his um his his light to give space for there to be Golos, for there's to be space for someone to either for there to be galus and also in the person himself for there to be a chance the person not to do what Hashem wants. And that's very, very hard. There's extra strength needed to have such a thing. It's also with creation, in order to create a human being that feels that, hey, um, that could feel that there's nothing that created me and I just exist on my own, that comes from even a more deep level, more intrinsic level of Hashem, because for there to be light, or for there to be the spiritual uh, worlds and spiritual s- not just soul, but the let's say malachim. In order for there to be malachim, okay, fine. So it's only natural, so to speak. It's only natural for there to be atzilus and to malachim in general. It only makes sense that there would be malachim. So it's not like extra work to get there. But for there to be any darkness and any lack of understanding that Hashem exists, or just for things not to make any sense, that's extra. There's Hashem needs to um, be preoccupied even more to have it this way. Um, so what was really nice to learn is that instead of complaining like, oh, I don't like this, I don't like that, like I could realize that at those times, Hashem is more with me than in other times. If things are good, okay, fine. The reason why, if it's based on what I like, okay, so obviously certain things I like, certain things I don't like, and then I could complain one way or the other, or be happy just because I like it. But from Hashem's perspective, where am I being in tune with Hashem? If anything, in those times that is not the way I like, and that is even Hashem is like actively making sure that it's that way. Like he and from that perspective, you're being in touch with Hashem even more than when you're being overwhelmed with the light of Hashem. Alikos is goes by the the parable of light. When there's light, when there's when there's light, it's kind of we know automatically that there's a source of light. It's just automatic. By in this world, as soon as there is the sun, and by you don't even realize the time that it takes between when there's the sun and for there to be sunlight. It's almost as if it happens automatically. And when there's a sun, you know for sure there's sunlight. And when there's light, you know for sure there's the sun. When there's sunlight, or when there's a lamp, you know for sure there's light from the lamp, and the other way around. Like I didn't have to look up to know that the light was on. I just looked around and saw it was light, so I knew automatically that the light was on. So that's like godliness. That it's just automatic, that it's obvious, and things like that. But those that in on one hand it has the um, um what's good about it is that it's so in tune with its source. That's what's good about it, that it's so in tune with its source. But on the other hand, it's not really creating anything new. It's as if by the sun there was already the light. There was the light coming from somewhere, so it's coming from the sun. And before the sunlight, before you saw the sunlight, it was already in the sun. So it's not like it's creating anything new. But with regards to power, when you're going to power, yes, you don't see it, you don't feel it. You're not, if anything, it might not be in tune with its source. It's just like when you're throwing something, it's getting away from you. But on the other hand, you're actually creating something. You're doing some. When someone, um, it's like when someone breathes. At first, the breath was in yourself. It was one with you, and then it went out. So it's not like the breath creates anything new. It was already in you. So what are you really creating? But when you're creating something, when you're doing something with your hands, so you're actually creating something. And at that point, you actually have to work harder, unless you're very strong, and then doing certain physical movements aren't so hard. But yeah, so that's why um, that's why Golos. That's why what we're trying to do is bring the um is reveal that even the power is not really separate from Hashem. Yes, it could create Golos, but it's not that Golos is something separate from is something separate is a negation of Hashem's existence. If anything, during Golos, we're more in tune with Hashem himself and not Hashem's expansiveness, Hashem's just revelation, like being overwhelmed with Hashem's existence. Like let's say during davening, sometimes someone might have a feeling of just being in tune with his neshama and being in tune with Hashem, and then so much that he gets overwhelmed. So then he would just get overwhelmed with it, and then it might even go away. But at times when the person is not overwhelmed and is actually working, so then there's a chance that it won't get to that. He won't get overwhelmed, and therefore he could be in that space, then we could have a then we could be in tune with Hashem himself, and not just being in tune with Hashem's revelation.
Overwhelmed.
Not overwhelmed. We'll be in tune with it. Yeah. So this was important. So I liked that mimer when we were learning it. Now Shemos is this mimer.
So by him retract, just when he's hiding, it's for us to become in tune with his light.
Not with his light. We're getting in tune with Hashem himself. We're being in touch with Hashem himself.
So how are we getting if he's taking away the light?
Right. Exactly. While there's we could see the light of Hashem, then we're not in tune with Hashem himself. We're just overwhelmed with because he's more than just being it's a very good question. But the answer is that he's more than just a
if the light overwhelming me, then he's gonna overwhelm me.
Right. But when he's concealed,
right,
then we don't get overwhelmed by him, but then we're more in tune with him because him being concealed is only due to his extra effort to be concealed.
How does it make me more in tune?
We're being more in tune with himself.
Why? When the light's not there, what am I in tune with?
With him, not his light.
If the parents, just in the mashal, the parents say you should be independent, right? So how are you more in tune with the parents? Parents just
you're more in tune with
off to New York. They're in somewhere else.
Right, but you're in tune with you're in tune with a more intrinsic parenting method or parentalship.
But it's not the method that we wanted. That's not the natural method.
Right.
So we're in tune with
even more than natural. They had to dig more deep in order to get in order to reveal that.
With a deeper.
Yes. It's not, and then they're even not. They're not even, the child is not even in contact with the parent at that point. Let's say for that example, they're not even, so they don't even have the child doesn't even have any connection, is not being preoccupied with the parents anyway. They don't have any connection at that time. But while at that point, they're being more in tune. They're being more in tune with the real point of what the parent is there.
It's greater than the potential of Mashiach.
Right. That's why there's Golos. Well, not Mashiach. When Mashiach comes, we would have already reached the potential of what Golos could bring.
And therefore, the light doesn't overwhelm us.
Right. And therefore, when Mashiach comes, we'll be in tune with that. That's what, that's where it says there, when Mashiach comes, it's Hamshachas Harimus B'Chinas Elikayim. The Rimus will be in Elikayim. Meaning, yeah.
Without overwhelming us.
Right. which is really cool. Really, really
It's like the
cool.
child that
But
returns
then
home when he's 20 and has a better relationship with the parent because from the retraction, the child grew up to be a child.
right.
There's
And imagine if the child keeps on complaining to the parent, why are you
so treating you like a child.
no, but
Why
while the child is being told to go to, let's say, to go to
Yeshiva,
yeshiva or something.
right,
He's a teenager and he hasn't been out of his house
ever.
ever. He only went to day camp
Right.
and,
Right.
no names. Uh,
Same here.
and then he has to go somehow to yeshiva and then learn how to do laundry.
Make
Well, there's a
sandwiches.
machine, no machine.
Oh yeah, but you have to know how to work the machine.
Better than real laundry.
Right. It's not like the back in the day, but our grandparents, in Haifa, they don't have washing machines.
No, not yet. Washing hands. Next century, maybe. Next century.
Why, there's a lot of water.
Exactly. Don't need it.
You roll it down
They
the
don't-
hill.
The Mediterranean is big enough for you.
Yeah. So that's the thing. So imagine so this is a great parent, great muscle. While the child is being told to go to yeshiva, the child could be very annoyed. Like, why are you negating your you're not being my parent? It's as if you're not even my parent anymore, because like my parent would be taking care of me constantly and making me I'm dependent on them. They're doing everything for me and great. Like that's wonderful. When the child understands that he's being safe and taken care of and being a healthy human being because his parents are taking care of him. But the parent and the parents are parenting wonderfully and they're very happy in their parenting and the child is very happy in their parents. But then comes a time that the parents realize that this is detrimental to the child. The child needs to learn to become independent because like the child also needs to be a person of society where the person could also fend for himself and not only be a child, but also be a human being on his own and also hopefully be a parent himself. So he can't always be dependent on his parents. So the parent realizes that the child needs to be sent to, let's say, to yeshiva or whatever. I don't know, being told to go do, I don't know, build a sukkah or something, do something himself. Good.
Oh, it's all great, but if 99% of the children disappear with the Golos, then what's the tachlis? The father sends a child with the Golos, and you have 99% of Judaism into marrying, and the 1% remains from, then you missed the whole point. But what's the point of the darkness? You just ruined your child.
Right.
So,
Well, right. So there's
the
two. It depends on who the parent is. If the parent is a not healthy, hold on. Yes. Depends on the parent.
Yeah.
If the parent is not a healthy parent, so it would make sense that you could come to the parent and say, like, why aren't you being a healthy parent? Yes, yes, it would make sense to send him to this school or that school, but the school is not helping.
No, the kid disappears.
And so what type of parent are you? You're being a horrible parent. So that would make sense. But what if the parent is a healthy parent and he's still thinking that it is the right thing is correct to send this kid to such a place.
I understand, but he thinks, what's the topic of 99%?
I'm not here to find excuses. Yeah, I heard a mashal. I thought Rabbi Dinnerman is the rabbi in the shul I go to in Unzer Shul, Crown Heights. A year ago or so, he said a mashal. I thought it was a very good mashal. Here's the mashal. Mashal means parable. I don't know if that helps anybody, but that's the word mashal is. So here's what it is. You have anyone here knows how to ride a bike?
Yeah.
You know how to ride a bike?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't have a license. No license here.
Okay, you need my helmet?
What?
Or maybe I need a helmet when you. That wasn't nice. Okay. So in order to learn how to ride a bike, you need to learn how to ride a bike. So one of the ways is for a parent to hold on to the back of the seat and tell the child to pedal. After the child pedals a little bit, then the parent, out of the blue, lets go, and without the child knowing. And then the child continues, and there's two choices. Not two choices, but two things can happen. Either the child will learn how to ride a bike, and then great, or the child will fall. So what happened? This parent just let go. Doesn't he know that his child might get hurt?
The kids
Now, if the parent wants to get the child hurt, okay, then
you're not
fine.
going to do it and let the kid run into
And
a
then
truck.
be happy, right? Huh?
You're not going to let your kid run into a truck. You're not going to let go if the kid's going to run into a truck.
Oh, that also.
No, you're not going to let go because you rather a kid not learn how to ride a bike and not run into the truck.
Right.
So it's not
Right. So no. So first of all,
if the kid's going to learn so that a kid will get hurt but not die, not completely disappear into the gullet.
who says now there's many goyim becoming Yidden now, and we find out four generations ago, 5-6 generations ago, they weren't Yidden. I don't know. I'm not here to find excuses. It's absurd. Like I agree with you. I'm not here to,
I mean, I understand the muscle. I just don't.
Right. So wait. So this parent is letting go of the bike.
Okay.
So what is going through if the parent thought it through and thought, hey, it's a good idea to let go. What's going on? If the child continues riding the bike, then great. But the parent doesn't know that. And there's a chance, and most probably the child will fall down. But then why is the parent letting go? He doesn't want the child to get hurt, and he knows that chances are he will get hurt. So the answer is, even subconsciously at least, or in a healthy parent-child relationship, is that even if the child will fall off the bike, it'll cause the child to gain resiliency and just learning from mistakes, a bunch of things that could learn that the child could learn from falling down. And not just that, even if the child falls down, even if the child falls down, there's different ways the parent could parent. The parent could run over and hug the child and take care of every scrape or whatever, and boo boo and yo, and until the child calms down, and great. Which is it's a good theory. Then there's another theory that would say that the parent doesn't even flinch, doesn't even do anything, and just lets the child like figure out on his own how to get back up, which is at that time when it's happening, the child is in a lot of pain, and the child might even look at it as that his parent is neglecting him, and he might even not like it, and he might even complain to his parent that he's not coming over and taking care of his scrape. But the upside is immeasurable, because even if the parent, let's say, is going to make sure that the child never gets a scrape, and to make sure that he never falls off his bike, so then that's great that he never gets hurt from off his bike, but he doesn't gain all the things that he could gain from falling down and getting back up. So I'm not here to find excuses for Hashem. I'm just saying for myself, when I learned this, it hit the right nerve to realize, like, okay, like Hashem is more with me now. Then it had to get to a point where I need to think, okay, so then why should Mashiach even come? Like, right. Hashem is here right now. So I asked that question, and the teacher started laughing. No, I mean he didn't laugh. But I'm laughing at such a stupid question. But he didn't laugh. So that was nice of him. But the answer is whatever. I mean, the Rebbe answers this question.
I can say this question. I came late to my own negligence. Could you just give a bit of a synopsis so that I know about parenting and I know about bicycling? I just want to count one. What? See,
The question is
the
just
Rebbe
why?
saying,
How,
yeah.
uh
It's,
So he's asked. The Rebbe is asking. Um, um, when Hashem conceals himself, is he any less um is he any less here than when he's revealed? So the Rebbe's answer is that he's more here when he's concealed than when he's revealed.
What?
There's no other way.
Because he needs to actively contain himself. For us to exist this way, he needs to actively contain, like he has to not reveal himself. Meaning, so like let's say for a healthy parent-child relationship, it's kind of the same thing. It would be just, like there's such a thing as being suffocated by a hug.
Yeah. There's some
Yeah, but it wants to be like
there's
that.
parents that are
It's one of
helicopter parents that are so
that also.
למה?
חייב להיות ככה.
למה?
Wants to be like that.
Yeah.
If it's going to exist, if you're going to reveal, we're not going to be exist.
No, not
Wants
this
to be
way.
this way.
There is existences that are on that level. There are malachim like that.
Yeah, but still they're not.
You would be a malach, like when your mother ever called you a malach.
Malach is a
Your grandmother ever told you you're her malach?
Malach is different.
No? You're so wonderful, you're so perfect. No? Never happened? This is a father-son? Your son?
We are, it's okay. Though.
Uncle, daughter.
We expect.
Something. Did we get to the half point, or we got?
No, this is the whole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Akifa de Dveikos. So now we're going to get to when Mashiach comes.
Oh, then Hashem can reveal himself.
Tonight, tomorrow.
Tonight, right now. What are you doing right now?
Yeah. We're going to have Myra. No, it gets to a point. The answer about why Mashiach will come is that it gets to a point where we need to grow up. That's what it means. Can't just be like, oh, we're looking at the bright side of life, the goodness in darkness, or like, some people, their whole existence is being anxious. So if they're not anxious, then they start getting anxious. Right? People like that?
Yeah.
No? Okay, some people are laughing here.
Cousin always needs to argue with him.
Right, like, and if there's nothing to argue,
No, he's just
policeman.
like that. He's like that.
Are you guys cousins?
No.
Okay. So good. So that's
we can argue if we're cousins.
So Golos is like we're like uncomfortable. So good. So we need to we need to get a little more sane, a little more mature. But there's obviously an end goal of just being mature, being like we know that when Mashiach will come, we'll be like we're married to Hashem. When by Kriyas Yam, by Matan Torah, we got engaged to Hashem, and that was the whole thing with the Ksuba that Moshe Rabbeinu threw down the Luchas because it's the Ksuba. Mashiach will come and it'll be wonderful. What do you mean? Not to. The only thing is the question of Golus is just we need to try to. While we're in Golus, try to figure out a way how to get out of it. But it's not that we want to stay in Golus. It's absurd. It would be like someone is so in tune with his anxiety that if he's not anxious, then it's like he's not comfortable being not anxious. That doesn't even make sense because before he was anxious. So finally now he's not anxious. Good. So great. So now he can actually. What happens when someone's not anxious? Then he could do so much more. He's also calm. Like if someone's calm, like that's not unhealthy. The only thing is while so then you could go to find some therapeutic way how while you're anxious, how to still be how to still be calm, how to still what is it called still be active, like not be not to be disabled, not to be too overwhelmed by being anxious. Okay, so fine. So there's a theory how to get through that. But then when he's not anxious, great. Now he has so much more what to do. It's like some people have some people, everyone, most people have certain areas that are struggles for them, but then certain areas are easy for them. So it's not like, oh, they have to be so preoccupied with their struggles that they don't even have time to do what they're able to do in other areas. So that doesn't make any sense. So good. So in those struggles, okay, so we need to work on those struggles. But what about the things that come matter of fact, more natural? Like those things should be negated? That doesn't make any sense. So that's the answer why we still need to bring Mashiach, why Mashiach still needs to come, and we should be wanting for Golus to come, even if we're realizing that Golus, that Hashem is with us in Golus. Good. Chaim.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. That was section.